So this is my friend Patty. She'll be
Hello.
recording. And let's get started. Okay. So, living in a Mexican household, growing up and being raised as a young girl, there was always an oppression over my shoulders because of my gender. I wasn't allowed to do certain things simply because other women were doing it. And so we always had obligations, and we boys as the breadwinners were held at the top. And nothing was equal in my house. And so I feel like it was very sad for me growing up. And so not only do I imagine this being like abused, and like not physically, but it was mental abuse. And women in Latin countries not only go through the mental abuse of machismo, but they go through the physical, sexual, and femicidios, which femicidios is the murder of women. Moving forward, the machista ideals are woven into the foundations of Latin culture, an outdated way of thinking, causing the vast oppression of women and young girls. Abused women or oppressed women in Latin countries are caused by the outdated machista ideals. And a solution would be to giving a voice and educating those women who are oppressed. And women, the problem with machismo ideals is that these women are being abused, they have no voice, and they are forced into believing a certain thing and believing that thing is right. And I know my family personally went through this, and I've gone through this as well. According to Oscar Lopez, in 2017, 3,300 women, and in the prior year, 2,800 women were murdered simply because of their gender. Now, femicidios, or the murder of indigenous women in Latin countries, is at an all-time high. So there's this visual in rallies that they use, usually, "O machismo mata mujeres," every day. So I was just saying that machismo kills women every day simply because of them, their country's not allowing them to have a voice to speak against sexual or domestic abuse. And if a woman does speak out and does have some success, they have to go through many obstacles, and they're not recognized in their fields just as much as the men. Marta Mensa and Jen M. Grow in 2019 interviewed 22 women who were in the field of advertising. And with these women being in a field that was predominantly only men, they had trouble winning awards because men were breadwinners and they weren't recognized for their work. And this also proves if a woman is successful, she is connotated with the negative derogatory terms of being a manly woman and risking her femininity for success. And I feel like that's one of the things that as a culture, personally my culture, will always do. In 2010, Bradley Tarter found that in narco corridos, women are often the mujeres bravas, and with mujeres bravas, they are basically mean, or they are faced as to be a manly woman because they can't be a girly girl and stand for something that's successful or be at the top in any sense or form. And because of problems like machismo, this is all in the ideology and the customs of Latin culture. So basically the reason this really hasn't changed is the lack of education of partly men and women. The women as young girls are taught to be submissive, and that the man is practically the only one with rights, and that the man will only be above the women. So the way I experienced this was through our like dinner order. Our father would always get served first, along with my brother, and we would eat last and have to serve ourselves. And they would never have to participate in housely chores or obligations. So it's always women wash dishes, women cook, women do this. Nothing was equal. And with this lack of education, women were also taught to have expectations of always being that housewife and being taught to be a housewife. I've heard stories from my mother that they all would cook and clean as her sisters as well, and they were all taught to be wives, and they don't have any other necessary dream or aspiration to be nothing else besides a housewife. Now, with all of this machismo rooted in the culture and customs of Latin culture, the solution would be asking for a change and educating our people. So with educating, we want to educate the problem of feminicidios, sexual and domestic abuse, with marches such as Ni Una Menos, which is no other less. And so with these marches, women are using banners. This mainly happens in the Women's March, such as big capitals like in Mexico City. And these marches are to end the abuse or oppression of women necessarily. And the solution would be education. The machista ideals are woven into the foundations of Latin culture of an outdated way of thinking caused by oppression of young women and girls. What would make a big change for us at home would be joining the No Me Cuidan, Violan movement, organized by women in Mexico City, where after a young girl who was raped by 4 policemen. This would advocate for the change. And now these women use red hand marks to signal back. And that is the end. Thank you. That was Shane.